Alex Eala inspires the next generation with surprise school visit. Failure reminds me who I am. It was just another humid morning in Manila, the kind that made classrooms buzz with the soft of ceiling fans and the smell of chalk. Dust. At St. Catherine's International School, the students were restless. Exams were near, and the sun was too bright for focus. Then at 9:45 a.m., the intercom crackled. "Good morning, everyone. Please proceed to the gymnasium. We have a special visitor." Today, the students groaned, half, expecting another speech from an alumnist or a politician. But when the gym doors opened, the air shifted. Standing at center court, wearing a crisp white polo and her trademark smile, was Alexander Alex, the pride of Philippine tennis, the youngest Grand Slam champion in Southeast Asian history, and now world number 54. Phones shot into the air. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Someone whispered, "No way. Is that really her?" It was, and she was here not to promote, not to pose, but to speak. The silence before her words. Alex stood quietly for a moment as the applause faded. The gym light shimmered. On her face, confident, yet somehow softer than on television. When she finally spoke, her voice carried calm, power. "I didn't come here to talk about winning," she began. "I came to talk about failing." The room fell silent. A champion who fell and rose. Alex told him about the China Open just a few weeks earlier when she'd been knocked out in the first round. A shocking loss that stung more than headlines could describe. "I remember walking off that court thinking I'd let everyone down," she said. "My family, my team, my country. I cried a lot." She looked at the students, her tone honest, not dramatic. But then I realized something. Every time I fail, I meet myself again. Failure reminds me who I am. Those words hung in the air like sunlight breaking through clouds. The school that started it all, St. Catherine's, wasn't random. It was where Alex attended elementary school before moving to Spain for training at the Raffinadal Academy. Back then, she'd been just another shy student who'd doodle rackets in her notebooks. Her former teacher, Mrs. Ramos, was there that morning, too, tears forming as she saw her once quiet student commanding a gym full of hundreds. Alex was always focused. Mrs. Ramos whispered, but she never boasted. Even when she won local tournaments, she'd hand her medal to her seatmate to try on. Now, years later, that same humility had brought her back. The kids. Questions. After her speech, the floor open for questions. A small hand shot up. A boy maybe 10 years old. Hair sticking out from under his school cap. 8. "Alex, do you ever get scared?" She smiled. "All the time," she said. "I get scared before every match. Scared of losing. Scared of disappointing people. But fear doesn't mean stop. Fear means something matters." Another student asked, "What do you do when you lose?" She paused, then answered with quiet strength. "I let myself feel it. Then I go back to work. Losing hurts, but it also clears a noise. It reminds me what I love about the game." Then came a question for the back from a shy girl with glasses. "Do you ever think about quitting?" Alex's face softened. "Yes," she said. "I think everyone does at some point, but I also remember the 6-year-old me who dreamed of being here. I don't want to let her down." The room erupted in applause. A lesson beyond tennis. This wasn't a PR visit. There were no reporters, no stage, banners, no formalities. It was raw, unfiltered humanity. Alex spoke about her struggles with confidence, about loneliness while training in Spain, and how she'd once gone months without seeing her family. There were nights I wanted to give up, she admitted, but I learned that success isn't built on perfect days. It's built on the days when you show up even when you don't want to. She shared how she learned to cook her own meals abroad. A lot of burnt rice at first. She laughed, and how independence made her stronger. The students leaned in closer. They weren't just listening to a sports hero. They were seeing a reflection of themselves. Someone who stumbled, doubted, and kept going. Anyway, the principals. Reflection. After the talk, Principal Diver took the microphone. Alex, she said, her voice trembling slightly. When you were a student here, you once wrote in an essay that you wanted to make the flag fly. You've done that, but today, you've done something even greater. You reminded us that even champions bleed. The crowd clapped again, soft to this time, the kind of applause that carries gratitude, not excitement. The moment that moved everyone. As Alex prepared to leave, a teacher approached her with a request. Would you visit the school's small tennis court? It's still there, the same one you used to play on. She agreed. When she stepped outside, a few students followed, barefoot on the concrete. The court was cracked, faded, the net sagging slightly, but her eyes lit up. This is where I hit my first serve, she whispered. Someone handed her a racket from the equipment room. Old, the grip worn. She bounced the ball twice, smiled, and served. The ball sliced clean through the air, landing perfectly in the service box. The kid screamed in delight. Then, turning to them, she said, it's not about how perfect your court is. It's about how much heart you bring to it. Failure reminds me who I am. Later, in a small classroom interview with student journalists, she expanded on her quote, the one already trending online. When you fail, you're stripped of everything. The trophies, the rankings, the attention, and what's left. You, the real you, the one who started this journey. That's why failure reminds me who I am. She paused, glancing at the wall where the school motto was written in blue paint. Excellence through humility. That's the real win, she added softly. To keep growing even when no one's watching. The story she left behind. In the weeks that followed, the visit became legend at St. Catharines. The legacy of a visit. Months later, journalists still talk about that visit, not as a PR stunt, but as a defining moment of emotional leadership. Eala's humility reminded the sporting world that greatness is not about perfection. It's about connection. And for one morning in a modest Manila gym, she redefined what it means to be a champion, the philosophy of resilience. When asked later to expand on her now famous quote, Alex explained, I think we live in a world obsessed with success, but when you fail, that's when you strip away everything and remember your core, your values, your grit, your love for what you do. That's when you rediscover your identity. Her philosophy resonated far beyond tennis, becoming a mantra for students, athletes, and anyone navigating failure. In silence, full circle, as dusk fell over Manila that day, the school gym was empty again. But something had changed, not just in the students, but in Alex herself. Sometimes the act of inspiring others becomes a mirror that heals you. She came to remind them that failure is not final, but in doing so, she remembered too. And as she drove away, watching the children wave goodbye through the window, she whispered to herself, half a promise, half a prayer. Failure reminds me who I am and who I still want to be. Thank you for watching. Please don't forget to hit the subscribe button, like, and share. Till next